We have a quorum. This is the appointed time. So I call to order this meeting. Would members please confirm the minutes? That is LC paper CB bracket 166/1314, minutes of meeting held on the 1st of October. So far, the Secretariat has not received any proposed amendments. If there are no other views from members, we will confirm the minutes. Any comments? No? Thank you. Information papers issued since the meeting on the 15th of July. And since the last meeting, the information papers have been set out on the agenda. Any views on the information papers? No? So let's move on to the next agenda item. The next meeting will be scheduled for the 26th of November 2013, Tuesday at 2:30. The administration has proposed to discuss the following two items. The first one is the progress report on the mandatory building inspection scheme and mandatory window inspection scheme, and the creation of a permanent post of Assistant Director Mandatory Building Inspection in the Buildings Department. And number two, Public Works Project item 160 TB, footbridge across Po Yap Road, linking Chaguano Area 55 and Area 65. Any comments from members? Now would members please note that on members' request, in relation to Hong Shui Q New Development Area Project Planning and Engineering Studies, a special public hearing will be held to seek the views of public, which will be held on the 16th of November on a Saturday from 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. The Secretariat already issued the notice yesterday. All right. In relation to the development and conservation of country parks, at the last meeting, members raised the issue of conserving country parks. The administration's reply is now tabled. According to the administration, there is no plan for developing country parks for housing purpose. And between the 6th and the October, on the 9th and 16th of October 2013, the Secretary already answered members' questions at the sittings of the Legislative Council, and the administration does not consider it necessary to discuss this specific issues at this meeting at the panel. Should there be further developments, discussions will be held. Any comments? If not, then let's move on to item 4. Proposed retention of the 3 supernumerary posts of 1 government engineer, government architect, and D2 and 2 chief engineers, D1, in the Civil Engineering and Development Department for 5 years with effect from the 1st of April 2014. Would the staff please invite the administration in, please? So may I welcome representatives from the administration. The attendance list has already been tabled for members' reference, so I won't go through them. May I invite the administration to take us through the paper, please? Thank you, Chairman. In relation to the 3 supernumerary posts, they include 1 government engineer or government architect post and 2 CE posts, chief engineer posts. In 2009 and 2010, they were respectively approved for the creation, and the post would last until 2014 in March. And towards the end of the term of the post, a review would be conducted to see if these posts should be retained to sustain the work. Now, for the government engineer, or the government architect and 1 chief engineer. They will be responsible for leading and supporting the Kai-Tech office and for overall coordination and implementation of the ongoing and upcoming projects for Kai-Tech developments. Progress is smooth so far for projects targeted to be completed in 2013. The progress is good, and we are of the view that these major projects which should be completed in 2013 or later, because of the operational needs, these posts should be retained. The other chief engineer post is responsible for the administration, planning, and implementation of the Lianhang Hengyunwai Boundary Control Point project. The project is undergoing tendering process, and there is a need to retain the post as well, so as to ensure that the project will be completed by 2018. We propose to extend these 3 posts for 5 years, from the 1st of April 2014 to the 31st of March 2019. We'd like to seek members' support. The details are set out in the paper, and subject to members' support, we'll proceed to seek the approval of the Establishment Committee and the Finance Committee. We'll be happy to take questions from members. So I suggest a time limit for members' questions, 5 minutes, including replies from the administration. Dr. Lo Wai Kwok. Thank you, Chairman. Now, 2 development projects are involved, and they are very important. They are of wide public concern. They are also of our fellow colleagues concerned in this council. Now, this proposal is in relation to the extension of the posts, such as government engineer, chief engineer, etc. I support the proposal. I am concerned, however, about the team under the lead of these posts. Save for these posts, there is no need for our panel or the FC to approve the posts underneath them. And I believe that a stable team is required.
Okay.
And within the government of the professional grades, they have a heavy workload, and they have to liaise with community members and liaise with electrical for projects of which have to do with the livelihood of people in Hong Kong. So I'm very concerned about the teams beneath these directorate posts. I believe that the posts underneath the leaders will be retained as well. Is that right? So can the administration explain that to us? Thank you, Dr. Liu, for your question. Actually, in paragraph 29 of the paper, we state clearly that apart from the directorate posts, there are the senior engineer, senior architect, and engineer posts. The non-directorate posts will continue the planning and implementation of major infrastructure projects. So we will proceed as a team with carrying out the various projects. Sorry, mic not coming through. So compared to the past, will it be the status quo, or will more manpower be added? Perhaps I'll defer to the CEDD colleagues to supplement, but basically we will continue with the work of the existing team, and we don't have any plans to either increase or reduce the manpower. Chairman, can I supplement a bit here? Internally, there will be some redeployment of senior engineers and engineers to oversee the 2 projects. Apart from internal redeployment, there are also time-limited non-directorate posts which have been established, including several senior engineers and engineers. So they will we will extend the term of these engineers so that they can continue with overseeing the 2 projects. Yes. Mr. Wu Chi-wai. Thank you, Chairman. I want to ask, for the extension of posts this time, we're talking about 5 years. Can the department tell us this? The energizing Kowloon East will last until 2021, this project. And in the interim, we are still deploying supernumerary posts to undertake the work. So would there be opportunities when certain supernumerary posts will end in the interim period and then the manpower can be redeployed for other posts? Because the paper says that there is no possibility of redeploying other manpower to fill the 2 posts on hand, the several posts on hand. So because we're talking about a lengthy period for the energizing Kowloon East project, so would there be a possibility of redeploying some of the posts which might end, say, in the interim period for these projects? So can we review whether that can be done? Chairman, thank you, Mr. Wu, for your question. The 2 major projects that we are talking about here, they will reach the peak in terms of the project construction, and one project will follow another in the next 5 years. So we need these directorate posts in the next 5 years. And we also look at other projects of CEDD, and we see that the department will be inundated with workload in the next 5 years. We don't see a possibility of, say, extending these posts for a shorter period and asking other staff to take up the work. So can the CEDD supplement a bit? Yes. For capital works, they have certain time limits. So we have to look at the overall picture. Say, for instance, for CEDD, we have 2 groups of works. One are ongoing projects and one are planned projects, and both sides are increasing in terms of the workload. So for this year, the capital works will be valued at $4.7 billion, and in the next few years, the figure is set to rise further. And in the next 5 years, there will be an additional $3.5 billion of works. So, so we do see the need for the supernumerary posts to cope with the work in the 2 projects mentioned in the paper. Mr. Albert Chan, Chairman, I am against this application. I think the grounds are not very firm here. For any planning for new towns, and you have the outline zoning plan, and for Kai-Tak, it is particularly privileged in the sense that 3 years ago, you have already added several posts for 3 years, and now you are proposing a 5-year extension. For actually the outline development plan, well, it applies to all districts across Hong Kong, and what you are suggesting is not, say, particularly unique to this to these projects. For Kai-Tak, in particular, the cruise terminal building has been completed, and the district cooling system, the plan has been approved already. So for Kai-Tak planning, apart from the multi-purpose sports complex that might have to be reviewed again, everything else has been already planned. And for projects under the Housing Authority, they are already planned already. So you're talking about spending extra $10 million on these posts. I don't think you're giving us good enough reasons. Well, what's the difference of these posts as opposed to other posts established for other new town developments? I don't see any particular or unique reasons that we should have the extension of these posts. So I'm against the application. Chairman, thank you, Mr. Chan, for your comment. Kai Tak development area is a new development area. We have launched the first phase construction works. So I must interject here, Chairman. Now, the number of population has been down to 70 to 80,000 people. Now, for other new towns, say Shui, we're talking about population of 300,000 population. And say Shui, it is larger in scale in terms of the development area and the population. So in terms of the complexity of the Kai Tak development area, I don't see that it is particularly massive in scale. Now, as for advanced works and infrastructure projects are concerned, I think what is the only special thing about this development area is that you have a cruise terminal and you have a district cooling system. But all these works have already been completed in the past few years. So you are applying for the extension of the post. It's just that these persons are coordinating the works. Now, in paragraphs 5 to 10, you are just talking about coordinating various projects. So all these are found in the, all these works are also needed in development of other new towns. So what's so special about Kai Tak? I agree with what Mr. Chen said. Of course, the planning was done earlier, and the first phase projects have been completed in 2013. The Kai Tak cruise terminal and the district cooling systems have already been completed. What follows are other projects that will provide other services, and they are actually more massive in scale. So please give us the figures of other new towns, say Shatin, Changquan-o. At the peak of the works in these other new towns, what is the comparison between the figures of these new towns and Kai Tak? Perhaps you can lay out the figures in a table, and you can let us have a clear idea on why you need an extra posts for Kai Tak and not the other new towns. I need a paper, Chairman, to give us an explanation. Mr. Liu, can you give us a paper? Chairman, I want to say that in the new towns, actually the peak of the capital works were already passed, and they can cope with the existing workload with the existing manpower. Chairman, I'm asking about the comparison between these existing new towns and Kai Tak in terms of the peak of the capital workload. Please give us a comparison so that we will be convinced as to the need of this supernumerary posts. Perhaps I'll defer to the CEDD colleagues to explain in further details. Well, as what the paper sets, CEDD in the past, at the peak of the capital works of these other new towns you mentioned, in 2004, there was the restructuring of the CE of the Civil Engineering Department to the present CEDD. And Mr. Chen mentioned about the cutting of many staff complement after the new towns have been established. And actually, the paper is also said since 2004, a total of 11 directorate posts have been deleted, partly because the works for the new towns have been completed, say the works in Shatin and Changquan-o. So that's why there was a restructuring of the department then, a merging of some of the departments. And for the overall capital works expenditure now, we are spending some $4 billion. So for Kai-Tak, the capital works have reached a new peak, and perhaps our colleague can tell us what are the upcoming projects for Kai-Tak. And then we need additional manpower extending the existing posts. Thank you, Chairman. I want to respond to Mr. Chen's comment. Well, this has everything to do with my present post as well. I want to explain that in the past few years, our role has been this. Why is Kai-Tak so special in Hong Kong? Kai-Tak is a mega project covering 320 hectares. We have a planning objective, and we hope that to turn that into an attractive, vibrant, and people-oriented community for public enjoyment. How do we achieve these objectives? So if we look at the development plan of Kai-Tak, and if we ask the different departments to just implement the works according to the development plan, then that would not be good enough, because we have to tie in with the development of Kowloon East as well. So how can we ensure that the Kai-Tak will not only achieve the objectives I mentioned, but that also it can tie in with the development of Kowloon East? As what Dr. Low said earlier, we don't just take care of the projects, but have added also in work to communicate with the members of the public. In the past 4 years, we have liaised frequently with members of the public. In 2008, we found that there is this Lung Chung Stone Bridge remnant. So we launched a public consultation, and we asked them how should we preserve this relics.
And on Kai-Tak Nala or Kai-Tak River, how should it be? How should it correlate with the neighboring areas? We have had 2 rounds of consultation, even for streets within Kai-Tak area. On the naming of streets, we also conducted innovative studies. And our upcoming work is to promote Kai-Tak, to build up its own brand. And on public creativity, we need to spend much effort. Now, on the conservation corridor at Lung Chung Stone Bridge, we are preparing for a design competition, and for Kai-Tak, Nala, and for pedestrian walkways, and for linking bridges. We will also hold design competitions, and manpower is needed for all these projects. So I hope members will understand the importance of Kai-Tak, because the posts are very important for the benefit of the development of Hong Kong. And we also need to engage the public and to incorporate their views in the planning, to improve our planning. And much manpower is needed to do this properly. Thank you. Next, Dr. Kwok Ka-ki. Chairman, I think we understand that manpower is needed for major infrastructure projects, but we're also responsible for checking how public money is used. Now, I'm talking about the government engineer, government architect posts. Now, I don't know if you have similar posts in other projects, but I have the feeling that this is a tailor-made post. Somebody might have 2 disciplines of professions, and that is why this post is created especially for that person. I want to know whether this is a common scenario in your department. Now, your the last project in Kai Tak will be completed by 2021, and this post will run till 2019. I wonder if you'll come back to electrical for funding again. Now, we are particularly concerned about supernumerary posts because it's time limited. And if you know that the project would last for 7 years, why are you only seeking funding for 5 years? Because if you want to create permanent posts, there is another channel for you to do so. Now, the third point, for Liantang, the project will be completed in 2018. However, this post will extend till the completion, beyond the completion of the Liantang project. Please explain. Mr. Liu. Well, I'll briefly reply to the question, and I'll defer to the CEDD for a detailed explanation on the government engineer, government architect post. It's not tailor-made for anyone. It means the staff member should be qualified in either discipline. He's either an engineer or an architect. This is an or rather than an and. So it depends on the scope of work. Sorry, allow me to interject. Why is it so peculiar? Either an engineer or an architect. So can I create a post and for either a pharmacist or a medical doctor? Well, because this post is about coordinating major projects, civil engineering or other construction projects. So in relation to this D2 post, as government engineer or government architect, these two disciplines do have professional knowledge. At different periods of time, different professional knowledge may be required. For example, the government architect's knowledge may be required to consider the overall planning and layout, and at that stage, maybe it's more appropriate for the government architect to oversee the project. But upon the construction stage, perhaps the government engineer would be in a better position to oversee the works. So it's not the case that we are looking for somebody who is qualified in both ways. Right, you talked about an architect and an engineer afterwards. So there is only one post. Does it mean that after a few years the post will be taken up by another professional? Is that the case? The actual operation is that deployment of staff is done on a regular basis. Now the post is for either professional, and it depends on whether a suitable candidate can be sought. Government engineer, that's Mrs. Lee. Perhaps I'll defer to her to supplement my answer. Actually, I am the successor of the post. The first, my predecessor was the government architect. And at the initial stage of Kai Tak development, we needed to decide the overall plan and layout, and the scope of work actually tied in with that of a government architect. So in relation to the planning of the whole of Kai Tak, the architect provided direct assistance by formulating the framework from his professional's point of view. It's been several years since the start of the project. Many projects have come on stream, and they are in the construction stage. So at this stage, a government engineer is more suitable for the post. And there are two questions asked, I believe. The first is about the extension of the post till 2019, whereas for Kai Tak project, it won't be completed in full until 2011. Now we will review the situation towards the end of the term of the post to see whether there is any need to further extend the post. As for the Liantang post, our target is to complete the project by 2018. so that the Liantang BCP will be commissioned. There may be some follow-up work, however, and the contracts will have to be settled by then, and it is anticipated that the government engineer will need to take up much work in completing the projects. So that will take several months' time. Next, Mr. Tony Chair. Well, I actually wanted to raise the similar question asked by Dr. Kwok Ki, so perhaps we can spend a little more time on it. About the requirement, the post could be taken up by either an engineer or an architect, and it depends on the development cycle or at which stage of the cycle we are. So I'd like to seek more details. At the initial stage is an architect, and now it's an engineer. So what happens after the extension? Is it an engineer again, or at a particular time frame an architect will be sought again? I don't think open recruitment will take place. It should be done by internal transfer. So can you tell me something more about it? In terms of professional requirements, is it the case that at different periods of time there are different requirements? Isn't it the best that the professional should be equipped with all aspects of the knowledge, or the professional should be sent for furthering his studies? The other question is whether it is necessary, as asked by one of the colleagues, especially for the extension of the post for high-tech development. For high-tech, these two posts have been overseeing the project. Although it may be reasonable to extend the post so that they can continue to overseeing the project, but do give us some justification why it has to be extended for such a long period of time. And I think at the start of the project, you would have estimated that the extension would not be long enough, and you would need to seek another extension because the works will only be completed in phases by 2013, 16, 20, 21. So as explained just now, we need to review the work progress and the manpower within the department, and to have some flexibility, we suggested that a review be conducted once every few years, instead of setting down a fixed period of time at the start of the project. And this could also facilitate LegCo members in monitoring our work. About the point on professions, perhaps let me supplement. As said by Mr. Liu, these are two different matters. One has to do with the establishment. That is to say, professions from either discipline can take up this post. The other aspect is that in terms of which discipline should take up this post at different periods of time. That depends on our establishment, and very seldom will we see an officer taking up a post for as long as 5 years without any redeployment. So it depends on whether he's suitable for the job. Sometimes the engineer may need to oversee a project, but likewise, an architect may also have the experience or knowledge in overseeing a project. Many colleagues here have various aspects of knowledge. So it's not necessarily the case that on reaching the construction stage, an engineer must take up the post instead of an architect. So it depends on the nature of work and also the candidates suitable and available for taking up this post? Chairman, I still have some time left, so I'd like to clarify this point. That means professionals from either discipline can become candidates for your consideration. The major consideration is whether their knowledge is suitable for that stage of work. So it has to do with whether they have the experience and also whether you have the manpower available then. Next, Mr. Leung Kwok Hong and Mr. Wu Chi Wai and Mr. Albert Chan. Chairman, of course I understand that the government would like to have more manpower because they're changing all the time. At the cruise terminal originally, it was said that a light rail system would be constructed, and a lot of consultation had been done, and much coordination work had been done, and then it was put on the back burners. Can you tell us what has happened to the light rail system? It's a waste of time. Point number one. Point number two. Now, Mrs. Lee just now gave an explanation. I really admire her. My question is this. Why is the work taken up by your department? Why is the CEDD responsible for consultation, so on and so forth? And also the chanting of slogan. I am good at that. I am electrical member, but you are a technocratic staff. So, in short, if you really want flexibility, we can give you flexibility. These are supernumerary posts, and we're not trying to stir up troubles. If you talk about supernumerary posts, we need to ask more. If we approve the extension of supernumerary posts, then what about permanent posts? If you offer $2 million annual salary for the supernumerary posts, what happens to your staff within the department? It has nothing to do with your project. The question is whether for that project you must create supernumerary posts to oversee it. Or would you rather promote somebody from your department internally? Because you're always asking for supernumerary posts. Well, you are not political officials, so I respect your work.
But you must give us a clear picture. For the light rail, many people criticize you for cancelling that project, and people criticize we electrical members for not overseeing the project for them. When the tourists arrive there are no taxis, and they take the wrong transport modes. And so how can we have faith in you? Well, you said that you want to retain flexibility in creating supernumerary posts, and you are in fact trying to save money. Are you telling us that if the supernumerary posts last too short, then nobody is willing to come forward? If that is the case, you can promote those inside to the supernumerary posts and then find somebody to replace the permanent posts. So you can't convince me, indeed. And also, I've never agreed to the Kai-Tak development project. Well, there's nothing I can do, even if I cast a vote against you. But the project is now already taking shape. And I also want to talk about public consultation. People have been telling me time and again that you have not done adequate consultation among these stakeholders. How are you going to resolve that problem? So for the supernumerary posts, are you going to recruit someone who is skilled in consultation work? Well, the technocrat should be undertaking that work or not? Well, supernumerary posts. Let me explain. Well, that is a supernumerary posts are opposed to permanent posts. And actually, the posts will be filled by redeployment or internal promotion. We're not going to launch an open recruitment. So there is a possibility for internal staff to be promoted to these posts. As for the consultation of the light rail system, by the end of this year, we will conduct a second stage consultation. Please be patient, Mr. Leung, and we will be launching publishing a consultation paper very soon. The question is, the cruise terminal has already been completed, but then the light rail system is really to enhance the accessibility of the entire Kowloon East district, and the cruise terminal is just one of the stations in this project. The planning for the light rail takes a longer time. And upon the initial completion of the cruise terminal, we don't anticipate that there will be a very heavy traffic flow. So we don't plan for the light rail system to serve the cruise terminal. Well, you should have told us this point earlier, a long time ago. Please register my point on record. Mr. Leung also made a very good point. And actually, many people say that we have not been consulting adequately among the stakeholders. As what Mrs. Lee explained, we need a high-ranking official to lead the consultation work. We'll try to do our best, but we cannot guarantee that we would meet Mr. Leung's aspirations. Mr. Wu Chi-wai? In Annex 5, there are 4 CE posts listed here. I'm still not convinced. I have 2 points to make. In Enclosure 5, there are 4 CE posts. Can you tell us the work portfolio and the progress of the projects under their ambit? Can you merge the work portfolio of these 4 CEs together with the CE of the Lin Tang, Hang Yun Wai BCP, so that the posts need not last 5 years? Can you tell us what is the workload of each and every individual CE so that we can make a better decision on whether to improve the funding application? I'll defer to the CEDD colleagues on whether it's possible to amalgamate the work of the various projects under the several CEs. Well, as far as I understand, these chief engineers have to work long hours already, and if additional workload is dumped on them, then they must work extra OT, and I don't think that is reasonable. Perhaps I'll defer to the CEDD colleagues to explain the detailed work. In Enclosure 5, this is the work of the Civil Engineering Office, and we are applying for extension of the post for 5 years of the CE for Lin Tang BCP. We talked a lot about Kai Tak. In the past, we haven't had a project as massive as the Lintang BCP. Before 2009, we had a lot of marine projects about land fields projects. We have chief engineers overseeing those projects. In Enclosure 5, we have 4 chief engineers. One is a special duties works responsible for Anderson Road development projects and other major projects, Aberdeen the project and the Harbourfront project, the Victoria Harbour project and other projects. And also for Lin Tang project is a cross-border mega project. In 2009, we especially established this supernumerary post dedicated to this project. So under the CEO, there are 4 chief engineers, but they will not be able to take on the extra workload of the Lintang BCP. Well, I understand all these, Chairman, but I hope that there is a paper listing out clearly the division of work among these 4 chief engineers. Without such a paper, I will not be able to judge whether there is this possibility of merging the works among these civil chief engineers. For Enclosure 5, every chief engineer has to oversee a number of projects which are listed clearly in this enclosure. So I don't get it. I don't want. I'm not sure that I follow what kind of information is needed. I just want them to list out whether 5 years is really needed or whether 3 years is good enough, and then other chief engineers can be redeployed to work on the Lintang BCP. Chairman, perhaps we can provide a supplementary paper on what is requested. Do other members have raised their hand? And I have also received a motion moved by Mr. Albert Chen. This is directly related to the agenda item. So I would allow for that motion to be moved and tabled. Mr. Albert Chen and then Mr. James Tan. Then I will draw a line. Thank you, Chairman. About the supernumerary posts, I think the government must give us good justifications. In the 90s, there were 10 major infrastructure projects. A special coordination office was established, and we all supported it because the projects are very massive in scale. But then for this Kai Tak development area, 3 years ago, you raised the proposal to establish a supernumerary post to do all the coordination works. That was understandable, and that was supported. But then, up to today, the works have sort of become routine, as experience showed in other new town development. And there were established mechanisms without the need for a supernumerary post of an engineer to coordinate all the works. So you came up with this proposal, and that the explanation was not acceptable to me. So if you say that you need this engineer this time, then you are not doing any justice to all the development staff of other new towns in the past. In developing the existing new towns, and then there was also heavy workload, including preservation of cultural heritage and so on. So I don't think that there are good grounds for your present application. Why don't you establish a permanent posts like what you did when you developed the new airport? You must give us sufficient justifications and figures, or else we will not be able to support you. What you said in the paper is unsubstantiated. Also about the head of the Kai-Tak office. I don't think he should be responsible for this multi-purpose sports complex construction. I think if that is the case, then we should stop all work related to the building of the multi-purpose sports complex. I think we need to, do we need to respond to the motion? We do have permanent posts, but the supernumerary posts is really to cope with the volume of workload which is at its peak now. In Newtown development, as we all recall, the development work took a long time. It might be as long as 30 years. We did have completion target rates, target time, and we will be completing certain projects in 2013, others in 2016, and then some others in 2021. So in the next decade or so, the volume of workload will be at its peak. Well, can I add that the Shui, which houses a population of 300,000, was completed in a decade or so. In 2007 or 12, that was the peak of its volume of the capital works workload. Well, the peak of the workload here is nothing comparable to that of Shui back in those days. As what Mr. Leung said, compared to the past, we have to do a lot more in engaging the community. We did a lot in community consultation, and we have to amend very often our plans in response to public demands. So that takes up a lot of our time, and obviously that has increased. That on the workload on that front has obviously increased compared to the past.
Mr. James Tin, Chairman. The administration made such remarks because elections are coming and the political parties have various views on government projects. In the past, and many projects are on the delay. Whereas for Shanghai Free Trade Zone, they could accomplish it in just a few years. Now, why are the posts extended by 5 years instead of 3 years? From the West Kowloon experience, we can envisage you coming back to apply for another extension. And the supernumerary posts will be extended for 5 years at the tentatively. I don't think any government official can guarantee that works will be completed in just 5 years. So why don't you only apply for an extension of 3 years first, followed by, say, another 3 years, and 3 years, altogether 9 years. And my other concern is the shortage of laborers. You have someone giving directions above, but you don't have workers doing the groundwork. If so, well, the workload for these directorate posts will be very light, so that they won't have much to do. So will there be sufficient manpower and contractors to undertake the project? Thank you, Mr. Tin, for your comment. May I clarify that in relation to the head of the Kai-Tak office, It's for 4 years, slightly more than 4 years, not 3 years. And for chief engineer post, it was created to last for 5 years initially. And as we explained in the paper, we would review the work progress and the workload of the department before deciding whether these posts should be extended. So back then it wasn't the case that we thought the posts would be completed in 5 years. But in fact, if you can't complete it in 5 years, then maybe 6 or 7 years instead of a 5 plus 5. So we're looking at the work progress, and we can see another peak coming in the next 5 years. And there are works projects to be tendered out very soon. Mr. Tian asked whether those contracts would stay put, and then workload will be few for them, but that would not be the case. No other comments? So much for this item. I can now deal with Mr. Albert Chan's motion. We can vote on it. Support him. Thank you, Chairman. Are we dealing with this motion? I don't see the relevance of this motion to our discussion today. The item is about the supernumerary posts, whether they should be extended or not. But now the motion is not about the post. The motion is about rezoning the land for the multi-purpose sports complex to residential. So what has it to do with the creation or extension of posts? I think it has departed from the core of the discussion. So, Chairman, please rule on whether the motion is relevant to the discussion. Chairman already made a ruling, but since Mr. Yip Kwok Kim is challenging the Chairman, so perhaps I should say something on behalf of Chairman. Now, it has to do with the post of the head of Kai-Tak office. Can you see that? Chairman, I'd like to clarify one point. The Kai-Tak and PSC, the multipurpose sports complex, well, it's not under the Development Bureau's purview. It's actually under the purview of the Home Affairs Bureau. Of course, the head of the Kai-Tak office would take up the work of coordination in this regard. But in fact, the MPSC is under the purview of Home Affairs Bureau, not Development Bureau. So, well, we're talking about the scope of work of the head of KTO. We need to look at the all matters relevant to the Kai-Tak project, including the connecting roads, etc. And the role of the head is to coordinate all matters, not just the multi-purpose sports complex. Well, you are moving goalposts so quickly, Chairman. Just now, Mrs. Lee, when Mrs. Lee was explaining to us, you talked about your department getting hands on all the matters like historical relics and footbridges, etc. And this office is in charge of coordinating things. And you also offer assistance in public consultation and transportation, etc., etc. So this post is responsible for coordination. My motion focuses on the multi-purpose sports complex, because for all other projects like the district cooling system and the cruise terminal, these projects have been completed. As for the MPSC, this could become the core of the work of the head, and I am against the construction of the sports complex, and I don't think money should be given for this post to be extended. So it has to do with the agenda item. So I'd like to ask Mr. Albert Chan to clarify this motion. If I'm not mistaken, about this proposal, Mr. Albert Chan said that he will not support the proposal. So this post should last until the 31st of March next year. So according to Mr. Albert Chan, he is against extension, and in the interim period, the administration should do something, and this proposal in the motion should be implemented instead in the interim. So, Mr. Albert Chan, is that what you mean? Please clarify. The other point is this. Mr. Albert Chan might have conducted a lot of studies. He might think that this task should be taken up by the Kai-Tak office or the head of the Kai-Tak office. Mr. Albert Chan, please. This motion is relevant to the paper. Yes, it falls within the time frame of the funding and the time frame stated in the paper. Whether this is the most desirable way, we're entitled to our opinion. Maybe the DAB will ask for the construction of mass transport link, and maybe Chen Yunhan from FTU will ask for something like a bazaar. And my position is that all along I object to the multi-purpose sports complex. I have objected to its construction for over a decade. So I'd like to use this opportunity to tell the head of the office not to waste public money and not to waste taxpayers' money. Mr. Michael Tian. Chairman, I have only one request to make in relation to the Harbourfront authorities. I am very interested in this topic and also in the topic of Hong Shui Q NDA. And we are behind schedule. Please, Chairman, make a decision. Let's wrap this up in 5 minutes and move on to the Harbourfront. It's very important. It's just about the post. Why are we debating on it for so long? So let's put this motion to a vote, and we have two remaining items which are also important. So with those in favor, please raise their hands. Are you claiming a division? Will those in favor please raise their hands? In favor of what? In favor of Mr. Albert Chan's motion. His motion will be put to a vote. Will those in favor please raise their hands? 3. Those against, please raise your hands. Number of votes, 11 against, 3 for. Motion not carried. Next item. Chairman, so what about this paper? Are we going to indicate our support or what? Are we going to vote on the paper on the creation or extension of posts? The panel would also need to indicate whether it supports the proposal. All right. Do members support the administration's proposal to be submitted to the Establishment Subcommittee. Would those in favor please raise your hands? Anyone against? Please put on record that the People Power strongly objects to the proposal. All right, next item on the agenda, proposed establishment of the Harbourfront Authority Phase 1 public engagement exercise. Would the staff please invite the administration in? Thank you. May I welcome representatives of the administration attending the meeting. They are on the attendance list, and I won't go through them one by one. Would the administration's representative please take us through briefly this item? Secretary. Thank you, Chairman. Chairman, Victoria Harbour is the icon of the city, and Victoria Harbourfront is an important asset of Hong Kong, and it is the administration's staunch pledge that to enhance the harbourfront. Our vision is to create an attractive, vibrant, accessible, and sustainable world-class harbourfront for the people and a harbour of vitality. Last year, the Harbourfront Commission submitted a report to the administration on the recommendation of setting up a harbourfront authority, and the harbourfront development in a holistic manner will be pressed ahead with an innovative mindset and a flexible management approach. And the Chief Executive, in his policy address announced this year, the Development Bureau will collaborate with the HC in conducting public consultation on the proposal. The first stage public engagement exercise was recently launched on the 4th of October, and to seek views from the public on the setting up of the Harbourfront Authority. And as the CE indicated in his policy address, should the recommendation gain the wide public support, the administration would start the preparation work and provide all the necessary funding to help the proposed establishment of a Harbourfront Authority. I will now defer to Mr. Nicholas Brooke, Chairman of the Harbourfront Commission, and Mr. Vincent Ng, Chairman of the Harbourfront Commission's Core Group for Public Engagement, to take members through the background of the establishment of a Harbourfront Authority and a PE exercise. Mr. Brooke.
It is the common vision of the Harbourfront Commission and the Government, and I imagine members of this panel, to create an attractive and a vibrant and an accessible and a sustainable harbourfront. By way of background, after the Central Mon Chai reclamation litigations, the Government established the Harbourfront Enhancement Committee, the HEC, in May 2004, to advise on its planning, land uses and developments along the Victoria Harbourfront, and this body was succeeded by the Harbourfront Commission in July 2010. Over the past 9 years, the former played an advocacy, an oversight and an advisory role in the envisaging, the planning, the urban design, the marketing and branding, and the development and management and operation of the harbourfront areas and the facilities on them. Since its establishment in 2010, the Harbourfront Commission has advised and provided input to more than 80 public and private development projects along the harbourfront. However, our experience over the past 9 years has shown that despite these efforts that we have made to enhance the harbourfront and to achieve our vision to create an attractive, vibrant and accessible and sustainable harbourfront, it needs to be developed, designed, overseen, maintained and managed in a holistic manner. The Commission feels very strongly that the current way of delivering projects through the Government, through what we describe as the Government conventional build and operate approach, is not sustainable in the long term. It is not viable, and we are not delivering the quality of waterfront that Hong Kong deserves. We feel this is a serious bottleneck which needs institutional change to unleash the full potential of Hong Kong's harbourfront. To address this issue, the former HEC and the Commission have in the past years studied many overseas waterfront management models and local examples of public bodies. And indeed, LegCo itself has been overseas and has studied a number of successful examples. Earlier this month, as you may have heard, the Commission held a symposium and invited waterfront experts from Auckland, from Sydney, from Singapore and Vancouver to share with us their experiences of waterfront development. All of them, without exception, explained how important it is to have a dedicated statutory body to deliver the outcome and to develop and manage the waterfront. So from the Commission's perspective, we sincerely believe that it is important to establish a dedicated statutory authority which should be visionary, should be mission-driven, and should be able to combine advocacy with execution to develop and manage the harbourfront in a holistic manner with a creative and innovative mindset and a flexible framework. We don't believe that Hong Kong community lacks the aspiration or indeed the will to make it happen. The real issue, and this is why we're with you today, is to identify the most suitable delivery agency to unleash the full potential of the waterfront. The ambition to achieve the objective is clearly there. It's just that we have to identify how best to achieve the optimum outcome, and hence our proposal to the Chief Executive last year, which he accepted and agreed. The Commission believes that the harbourfront is a public asset and is built for the people and for future generations. We are very conscious that it is important to have public support for the proposal that we are making. Let me emphasise we have no preconceived views or set ideas as to what model should be adopted, and indeed in the consultation engagement document we present a range of options and aims and alternatives for consideration by the community. We are happy and we intend and are ready to listen to the views of the public through the public engagement exercise in the coming months, and indeed we will value and we would welcome the views of this panel this afternoon on the proposal. I'd now, if I may, like to ask Vincent Ng, who is chairing the Commission's core group for the public engagement, to talk specifically about the public engagement exercise. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next, I would like to talk about the objectives and the content of the public engagement exercise. As what the chairman said, in the past 9 years, the conventional government model in developing the harbour is acceptable, but it's not an ideal model. Now, the government is now managing and developing the harbour front, and it is constrained by the resource and financial limits within the government. It may not be able to meet with public aspirations in long term. Normally, the government, it takes 5 years or more for the government to plan and develop the harbourfront sites or promenades, and if government departments have to compete with other government departments, a longer time may be needed. So if we have a dedicated fund to support the development and management of the harbourfront, then that would be able to meet with public aspirations. Now, under present arrangements, because of the legislative framework and constraints on resources and so on, it would be very difficult to break out of the box in our planning and development. So in recent years, the harbourfront has been developed in a better way. But despite this, if there is a dedicated central coordinated body to oversee the operation, planning and management of the harbourfront, then that would help enhance the diversified development and creativity of the harbourfront. The government actually uses a one single model to develop all parks in Hong Kong. Now, if parks are located along the promenade, and if there is a dedicated body to tailor-make in its planning for the parks along the harbourfront, then that would be helpful in unleashing the potential of the harbourfront and enhance the diversified model. So all these are considerations for supporting the establishment of a harbourfront authority. We will divide the public consultation into 2 phases. Phase 1 will last 3 months until January of next year. The aim is really to gauge public opinions on the vision from the public on the harbourfront, whether the present model can meet with their aspirations, and whether there is a dedicated harbourfront authority should be established to overcome present constraints. And also, if the public supports the establishment of a harbourfront authority, what kind of model should it take? The Harbourfront Commission has strived to improve the harbourfront, but not many people understand the background of the development of the harbourfront in the past decade. So in the first phase, we will share the Harbourfront Commission's vision on the harbourfront, the expectations and the worries, and also how the model can be improved to better meet with our objectives. We would also be gauging public opinion on whether an harbourfront authority should be established and what model it should take. And we hope to forge a consensus on that front. Now, as to whether the authority should be established, its functions and duties, and its role in advocacy and execution, and what kind of model it should take. So these are the topics will be covered in phase 1. In our digest, we also floated some models and ideas on how the authority should work, whether it should be employing its own staff or should be supported by a government team, and also whether after the authority has established, the Harbourfront Commission should be disbanded or retained. All these are subjects covered in phase 1. I must emphasize that these are not the finalized options, and people are not asked to choose either one of the several options. We're just floating these ideas so that people can be inspired in their thinking. We don't have sort of fixed ideas, and we want to be engaging the public, and that's a good tradition of the Harbourfront Commission, and we want to provide platforms for people to discuss these options. In the next 3 months, we have several channels, the website, Facebook, and questionnaire, and to gauge public views. We would also be organizing public forums and workshops to provide platforms for people to interact with us. We know that huge public resources will be involved in establishing Harbourfront Authority, so public support is of utmost importance. So if in phase 1 the public supports the establishment of the authority, the Commission will consolidate the public opinions together with the government, and then in the next phase of public consultation, we would lay out the detailed structure of the authority, including its powers and duties, financial resources, financial arrangements, land use issues, and how to protect public interest, and how to make it accountable, the composition of the board and decision-making processes, and so on. All these topics will be discussed in the phase 2 PE exercise. And then we will come up with a final recommendation for the government to consider. Chairman, the Harbourfront is an important public asset and should be built for our citizens and our next generation, and we hope that the public will enthusiastically participate in the public consultation, and we can work together with them to build a vibrant and attractive harbourfront. Okay, floor open to questions by members. 5 minutes each from each member, including reply from the administration. Members who wish to speak: Priscilla Leung, Dr. Kokaki, Mr. Yu Si-wing, Mr. Michael Tian, Fujiwa Yip Kwa Him, Dr. Kwakaki, Dr. Priscilla Leung. The idea of establishing a Harbourfront authority was first talked about in the last term of government. I moved the motion that it should be established, and it was unanimously passed. And this is our dream. And in our role to strive for the establishment of the authority, what is most important is power and money. Under the existing structure, Mr. Brooke and I went to actually down to the area around Hong Ham, where the Hong Ham promenade was set up. Now, after that promenade was opened for use, then the public demanded that we should improve the quality of water around that promenade. And if in improving the water quality, we have to involve a lot of government departments, highways department, drainage services department, home affairs department, and so on, and also the commerce and industry departments as well. Now, in the past 5 years, we have worked together with many engineering experts. We know that there are constraints within the government. There are certain blind spots, like the Qingzhou cement factory. There are private contracts involved. And you have to use special techniques like viaducts above the harbourfront so that a continuous promenade can be built. So will the Harbourfront Authority enjoy the power to ask certain private companies to give away their land so that a continuous promenade can be built along the waterfront? So these are considerations involving the public sector which have to be factored in. Now, let me take Hong Ham as an example. The Hong Ham Pier is not put in use, and if it is put in use, then we can add in elements of, say, like the tourism into that pier. And then that also involves transport arrangements. So the Harbourfront Authority must be interdepartmental in nature, and it should have the power to lead the works of various departments, or else it will bump into a lot of difficulties. So I support the establishment of the authority, and I call on the public to participate actively in the PE exercise. Not just the public, but other stakeholders like engineers, harbour experts, and so on. Their views have to be gathered. And also we have to consider striking a balance between developing the harbour front and building buildings. Say, in Kowloon, along the waterfront, we strive to build a beautiful harbourfront, but then there is also the need to build residential buildings along the waterfront in Kowloon. So how do we strike a balance between development and harbourfront development? Some Sham Shui Po residents told us that they never had the chance to look at the sea, have a glimpse of the sea. So how can we strike a balance here? We need some people who support us, who have this vision, who share this vision with us, to work together with us.
水質嗰個污染突然間就增加好大，喺當區居民佢當然咧有擔憂㗎，係嘛？影響佢嘅健康，咁又牽涉到環保署嘅問題。咁你點樣去展開嗰個公眾諮詢，從而呢啲聲音都能夠聽到咧？
好，多謝。局方。
多謝主席。主席就好多謝梁美芬議員剛才提嘅意見啦，其實都好重要害嘅。至於喺個公
These are important comments. Now on the public engagement, how more views can be collected in the process. Perhaps I will defer to Mr. Vincent Ng. Thank you, Chairman. Well, just now, Dr. Priscilla Leung raised her concerns. And in fact, all along, over the past 9 years, from the establishment of the HEC to Harbourfront Commission, we have encountered or we have collaborated with the communities in terms of planning. In other words, Hong Kong is a very good example. The problems faced at the district level are also the problems faced by the Commission. Now, very often when we encounter problems, the biggest obstacle is that there is no dedicated authority or department to tackle or resolve these problems. And these obstacles stall the whole matter because we do not have a dedicated body. I cannot underestimate the difficulty. For example, you may need to negotiate with private landowners, ask them to vacate certain parts of the waterfront in their redevelopment project, etc. Time is needed for the negotiation of these matters. So it is very important that we have a dedicated body to deal with these issues. As for the powers to be delegated to the authority, we hope that through this public engagement exercise, views from the public can be collected. Some may want more powers for the authority. Some might be concerned that they are given too much powers. So we keep our open mind in collecting views in the process. Next, Dr. Guo Kaki. Chairman, I believe that it's very clear that there is common aspiration to protect the Victoria Harbour. If there is some magic coming from the Harbourfront Authority to solve the problem, then I don't think there is a problem. However, is it that simple? The concept of a Harbourfront Authority is not new. In Boston, for example, the authority is in charge of land, and it has the influence. It has the power to influence government decisions. The Harbourfront Authority in Boston has mighty powers. We all know that there is a big dig in Boston. So, can Secretary tell the public today that when delegating the most important task of protecting the Victoria Harbour to the Harbourfront Authority, this is a very solemn undertaking. It should not be the same as other advisory bodies. They shouldn't need to go through government departments for approval. They shouldn't need to go through hurdles after hurdles, or they would work even slower than other government departments. I'm concerned that it may be an outsider to the government, and it may be working more slowly as they need government's approval. Now, second point, I don't know who will be appointed to the authority. If no developer is appointed, they may get upset. If you appoint developers, however, the authority will become a pie for developers to each get a share. Be it Hong Kong or Central, all developers would be eyeing on the Harbourfront Authority so that their interests can be protected. Now, about the Central Reclamation Project Phase 3, the consultation exercise hasn't even ended. Now, you are so determined to proceed with Harbourfront development, but shouldn't that the outcome of that consultation exercise be released first? Let's not forget that we are already encountering a lot of Harbourfront management issues. And I see that the second phase of the P exercise won't come by until 2014. So what is the government doing in the interim period? Secretary. Thank you, Chairman. Chairman, as myself and the Harbourfront Commission representatives said just now, we don't have a preconceived stance in this P exercise. we have come to consult members' views without any preconceived position. Our pledge is to enhance the Victoria Harbour and to create an attractive, vibrant, and accessible and sustainable harbour for the people and tourists. Whether the Harbourfront Authority should be set up, and if it is set up, how much power and resources should be allocated. I believe in the community there will be different views on its operational model and its relationship with government departments. We'd like to seek more views on these matters. And as said by Mr. Ng just now, we're going to collate the views collected in the PE exercise so that if it is the public's view that the Harbourfront Authority should be set up, then during the phase 2 of the PE exercise we will discuss these matters further or consult the public on these matters. And about the central Wan Chai Harbourfront outside Tamar site, we see that more and more facilities are being commissioned for the enjoyment of the public. So perhaps I defer to my colleague to briefly take you through this. Thomas? Thank you, Chairman. Well, Dr. Kwok just now mentioned land along the waterfront which might not be used by the public. In fact, this statement is not fair. Over the past few years, through the advocacy of the Harbourfront Commission and the work of the Development Bureau, in liaising with various government departments, much effort has been made for advanced works of the promenade projects to be kick-started. For example, Hong Ham Promenade Phase 1, as mentioned just now, and also in Quarry Bay, we've also started the advanced work of the Quarry Bay Promenade. And then as for New Central Harbourfront, we have also kick-started the promenade project, and one can walk from Tamar Park to the New Central Pier along the waterfront. As for other areas, we are working on them. We hope to provide temporary facilities that may also vitalize the harbourfront. For example, earlier we approved a short-term tenancy near the Star Ferry Pier for a Ferris wheel and for a carnival to be established there, and we also like to introduce other activities to take place there. The tendering process has yet to begin, but we would like to optimize the land use for larger events to be held there, including the Symphony Under the Stars held last year. We are preparing for the Wine and Dine event. That's part of the Food Expo, and we're trying our best. Even before the Harbourfront Authority is established, we try to optimize the use of land along the waterfront for the public to enjoy. Chairman of the Harbourfront Commission and also Chairman of the core group of the Harbourfront Commission already make this point in relation to the framework or structure of the Harbourfront Commission. There are shortcomings. From overseas experience, we can see that for successful examples, there is one new concept called place making, and to succeed in this regard, there must be a dedicated body. Apart from providing the hardware, some work should be done on the software side. For example, for events to be held in the vicinity, and for the business sector or NGOs to help vitalize the promenade. These are important areas of work. And that is why, on top of the advisory body structure that we have at the moment, we propose to set up the Harbourfront Authority. Mr. Yu Si-wing. Thank you, Chairman. Hong Kong has a beautiful harbor. It's unique to Hong Kong, and we need a coordinating body. So I support the establishment of the Harbourfront Authority. According to Para 4, Para 5, amendments were moved by members to some motions to revitalize the Harbourfront, and for more activities to be held. I don't know what the administration's position is. What about the division of work? Tourism Commission, Home Affairs Department, or even the Environmental Protection Department? How will work be divided among them? And in this digest, I can see that there were 22 action areas drawn up over the past 10 years. But on the Hong Kong Island side, only Central and Quarry Bay are involved. And for Kowloon, it's from West Kowloon to Kai Tak to Kwun Tong. But we know that the Western District and Shau Kei Wan, they're also situated along the waterfront. So what's the government's position on them? And Lei Yu Mun is also a good tourism spot. It's also a place frequented by the people of Hong Kong. So what is the government's position on it? Secretary. The 22 action areas. Over the past few years, the Harbourfront Commission launched some short-term projects with the communities there. So the principle of this PE exercise is to seek views on the establishment of the Harbourfront Authority, as to whether it would be done in phases or what, or how land should be allocated to the Harbourfront Authority, whether it should be done in one go or in phases, and its roles and functions and its relationship with other government departments. We need to explore all these matters.
As what Mr. Yu Si-wing said, Dr. Priscilla Leung cited Hong Kong as an example. If we are to develop Harbourfront sites, it involves various government departments. Coordination among them is very crucial. So we plan to share the ideas on these in the second phase PE exercise. Thank you. If we are to set up an Harbourfront Authority, we should have clear terms and duties for the authority. Without those, it would be of no use. So say in the consultation paper, can we add in discussions on tourism, on environmental protection, home affairs, and so. I know that government departments, they work in tandem, in parallel with each other, and they don't want to be doing something that would upset other government departments. So I think the government should discuss these issues in the consultation table. The government should be more bold in presenting these proposals. Chairman, in the second PE exercise, we will take on board the view made by Mr. Yu. Mr. James Tan, New People's Party is very concerned about the Harbourfront development. The government has launched a 3-month PE exercise, including consulting the public on the Harbourfront, the establishment of the Harbourfront Authority, how to plan for its development. We support that. But how can we prevent the authority from prevent the authority from being a commercial-minded body? Let's try to analyze these from several perspectives. The authority can be an executive-led body, planned, managed, and operated by the government, just like the LCSD. And then it will be people-oriented. And then the two sides of the harbourfront may then become open spaces or parks. Then I don't think that's far from a first-class harbourfront. Then the second approach is market-oriented approach, and you talk about money all the time. It's just like the working of the Urban Renewal Authority, and using market forces try to enhance the harbourfront quality. Then it will be easily prone or vulnerable to being criticized as a profiteering body. Now, the New People's Body advocates the proposal of the Tourism Board. And it's self-financed, and for special activities, it can set up dedicated funds and can apply for funding from the government. And its funding is also monitored by the LegCo, and through the public will be able to monitor the working or the financial situation of the Harbourfront Authority through its annual report. So I think this model is good in that it can enhance the quality of the harbourfront and will enable the public to monitor its operation. I think the model of the Harbourfront Authority has a lot to do with the development of the harbourfront. Now, my question for the administration, do you have an inclination one way or another now? If you don't have any inclination and you are just consulting from scratch, then that's most weird to me. Do you have any inclination now? Thank you, Mr. James Tan, for your question. We have one important principle, and that is to build the harbourfront into a place for public enjoyment by the mass public, and not for certain categories of the public. So, commercial principles will not be given too much importance. But then we still have to build in some commercial principles, or else we won't be able to do a good job. As my colleague said, Mr. Thomas Chan said, when we look around the world, successful harbourfronts incorporate the element or the concept of place-making, which will enable the harbourfront to be built into a vibrant area, attracting the public. So that's our overall riding principle. Perhaps I'll defer to Thomas Chan to further explain why we don't want to put too much details into the framework. We want to gauge as many public opinions as possible, and then we will discuss our thinking with the public in the second phase, P exercise. Thomas, while responding to Mr. James Tan, the Harbourfront Commission, each of the members of the Commission has his or her own idea of what the authority should look like. We don't have any preconceived ideas. What we are clear about is that we need a dedicated body to take on the work. And in our experience in the past 9 years, the existing government framework would not be able to allow us to build an ideal harbourfront to realize our vision. All the government can do is just to build 2 big parks along the harbourfront. If we want to build an attractive, vibrant, accessible, and sustainable harbourfront, and to enable a family, say, to stay for the whole afternoon along the harbourfront, a park is not good enough. You need to have commercial facilities, retail facilities, so they can eat and dine and so on. So we have to combine elements of commercial and leisure activities. So under the existing framework, that can't be achieved. We need a dedicated body. So how can we execute all these ideas? Does that body employ extra staff and extra team to implement all these initiatives, or it should rely on existing government teams to implement the plans? So that has to be considered. We have mentioned that in the consultative digest, and we are open-minded. And in fact, in the past decade, we have a lot of discussions on this point. A lot of people have a very good grasp of the complications involved in this issue. But then for the general public, they might have had little discussions on this. So that's why we have divided the BE into 2 exercises. And the first phase, we would just focus on the major principles. And then in the second phase, we will talk about the choice of personnel, land use, financial arrangements, and so on and so forth. In fact, under different models, we may allocate different sizes of land for the authority to look after. And that also will have to do with the structure of the authority ultimately. Yes, Mr.
Supplement. To me and to the Commission, this is all about delivering outcomes, and we are not going to be able to deliver the outcome we're discussing today unless we have what we believe is this, what we think is important, which is this dedicated agency. Just let me pick up what Mr. Kwok, Dr. Kwok said. We realise it's not simple. You're right, it is not simple, not at all simple. And he quoted overseas experience. I think overseas experience is relevant in terms of principles, but I believe what we're looking at here, just to answer members' questions, is what I described as a Hong Kong tailored model. In other words, we tailor the role and responsibilities of the agency or the authority to suit this special situation of Hong Kong. For instance, we have to recognise the role of existing institutions, the Town Planning Board, for instance. Clearly the authority will have to interface with the Town Planning Board, and indeed, if it wishes to change uses or change any of the plans along the waterfront, would have to secure Town Planning Board approval. So just to assure you, we realise it's not a simple exercise. And again, just to reassure members, in terms of powers, clearly it's very important to achieve the necessary checks and balances. Membership of the authority, again, striking the right balance between membership, clear terms of reference for the authority, again, that's a must. So all of these things are very much on our agenda and are very much in our mind as we engage with the community.
好，我胡志偉議員。
多謝主席，聽咗咁耐呢，其實都明白，如果要成立海濱管理局嘅 嘅時候呢，所要面對嘅工作，所要面對嘅係規劃呢，其實係絕不簡單嘅一件事。換言之，就算公眾係認同咗呢，係要做呢件事都好，都可能講緊3年5年後呢，先至可以完成晒成個法定嘅程序都唔定。我係有個即係擔心，亦都係即係覺得就係話呢，我哋係咪應該係要等咁長嘅時間，而政府係咪係咩都唔做得？事實上，我哋睇翻就係海濱事務管理委員會咧已經做咗9年嘅工作。頭先吳生講咗好多次，就係話喺過往有好多嘅限制，牽涉資源嘅問題，牽涉而家政府架構嘅問題。呢啲嘅嘢係唔係可以係即係有啲嘅快速啲嘅方法做呢？我舉個例子，就住海濱嘅係一啲資源上嘅配套，政府係咪可以係即係喺嚟緊嘅施政報告講，就好似我哋過往去年用人人倡導計劃咁樣呢，係有一筆錢呢係專責係放喺落海濱嗰處。將來你係咩架構係另一件事，咁但係喺短期裏邊係唔應該，因為要等個長期嘅架構出現到呢，我哋先至有資源去做嗰件事。
Well, this is something that we can do. I agree with Mr. Ng. The LCSD is very bureaucratic in its management style. The Harbourfront Authority should adopt a more people-oriented approach, and I think these LCSD should adopt such an approach as well. Well, the government seems to turn a blind eye to the way the LCSD is operating now, and then the government shouldn't be doing that. I think the government can, in the short term, change the mindset of the LCSD. Let me cite an example, energizing Kowloon East. It is also managing the Harbourfront. And the LCSD is giving away its power to the Energizing Kowloon East office to do the planning of that plot of land. And then you see something more interesting happening on that piece of land. So can this approach, say, be adopted before we make a decision on whether to establish a Harbourfront authority, and that we shouldn't have to wait until the establishment of the Harbourfront Authority before we can enjoy all these interesting features on the Harbourfront? Secretary? Well, actually, we've done a lot of work in the past few years before the authority is set up. I won't repeat the points made by colleagues. Say, in the Western District, the stormwater pumping station in Quarry Bay in Kwun Tong. Well, we've embarked on a number of projects. A deficiency is that the funding was made using the minor works account, and that was not good enough. So if we are really to do good work, we have to have a dedicated body which is empowered to allocate its financial resources.
Chairman, sorry, I'm not against the administration saying. I'm just saying that the resources for the dedicated body should be allocated in advance, just like the Universal Accessibility Scheme. Chairman, I was talking about the East Kowloon project, and you need to set up the East Kowloon office first as the executive arm. We cannot do things in just one go. If there is wide public support for the establishment of the Harbourfront Authority, then, like I said just now, we're going to proceed with legislation and resource allocation. As for Tamar site, my colleague has already taken members through the work that has been done. So before the setting up of the Harbourfront Authority, we are going to continue with what we can do. Sorry, Chairman, I asked him 2 questions. One, can the government commit resources in advance, just like the Universal Accessibility Scheme? And you said that the Harbourfront Authority can have a consolidated way to carry out a project. Now, I think what Mr. Ng pointed out doesn't just happen to the Harbourfront. It happens to all LCSD parks. Chairman, allow me to interject. We can only apply for funding if we have projects. We can't just ask for funding in advance when no project has been formulated yet. Chairman, maybe I'll try to answer some of the questions. I can't answer on behalf of the administration, but now, Mr. Maybe you face some problems at the district level, at the district council, and we face the same problems over the years. And the Harbourfront Commission over the past years has been striving harder to resolve these problems. For example, whether we could walk on the grass or even lie down on the lawn. Nowadays, we can. So, can we change the thinking of a government department? Yes, we can, but can we realize our vision only after the government department has changed? That is the purpose of setting up a dedicated Harbourfront authority. It's not only about management, it also includes planning and design. The authority is responsible for its own success or failure. It can refine its design to make the place more popular. But if the management and planning aspects are taken up by various government departments, then relatively it's less likely to succeed. We still have some other members waiting. I really have to limit the speaking time. Yip Kwok Him, Alan Leung, Chen Hak Ken, Lo Wai Kwok, Regina Yip, Alice Mack. So let me do some calculation. The speaking for the first round only, that would take 35 minutes. We still have 80 minutes to go. So, Mr. Yip Kwok Him. Thank you, Chairman. Now we are discussing the establishment of the Harbourfront Authority. The DAB all along supports its establishment so that the Harbourfront can be returned to the public for their enjoyment. The Harbourfront Commission has contributed a lot in the past, and now they have reached the final journey to go through the transition to setting up the Harbourfront Authority. About the positioning of the authority, I think there may be some obstacles. The administration should be fully prepared. The Harbourfront is that very valuable asset. And in my past experience, they may involve, say, the Marine Department and also private properties, etc. I think there are practical problems with commercial elements that may stop us from returning the Harbourfront to people for their enjoyment. And the West Kowloon as well. Now, whether some parts should be managed by private developers, some parts should be managed by the authority, etc., there may be a problem with coordination. On management, or the management model, we can foresee some major changes. So this is the beginning of the public engagement exercise. And according to the administration, the whole project will be phased. So I think it's a good idea. The Harbourfront Authority should first of all ask itself whether it possesses the harbourfront. This is the first step. It must strive for the harbourfront first. According to paragraph 15 of the consultation paper, you talk about a new central harbourfront. Nobody else has interest in it. It's controlled by the government. So the Harbourfront Authority can take charge of the site, and I think this is appropriate. So my question is this. How can you strive for the harbourfront sites? And on new central harbourfront, what are you planning to do with the site? Please try to answer me. Secretary. Chairman, thank you, Mr. Yip Kwok Him, for his comment. We will not underestimate the difficulties. It's a pragmatic approach to take things step by step. New Central Harbourfront, with the commissioning of the Central Wan Chai bypass and the reclamation project being completed, the soonest we will see sites being vacated as early as 2016. So we can do things step by step. So that we can build trust among the general public, and the Harbourfront Authority can also strengthen its executive abilities so that more land can be released for the management of the authority. Secretary, can you tell us what is the ultimate purpose? Will the whole Harbourfront be managed by the Harbourfront Authority? But say for West Kowloon, the West Kowloon Cultural District Authority is in charge of their waterfront. Chairman, I don't think it is appropriate at this stage to set an ultimate goal, because the ultimate goal or vision is to enhance the harbourfront, and we just really need to grope the stones as we cross the river, because private land ownership is also involved. Mr. Allen, now, before I move on to this topic, I'd like to say something in relation to Mr. Nicholas Brooke and Mr. Vincent Ng. I'd like to express my appreciation for their hard work and effort, for their contribution to the HGC as well as the Harbourfront Commission. Mrs. Carrie Lam, Chief Secretary for Administration, worked equally hard. Now, many members got quite agitated when they asked questions because they wanted it to be set up as early as possible. Many people did not pay attention to the issue for 9 years. So they should be given some time to familiarize themselves with the issue. As a government, however, we need to consider this. Let's look at the overseas example. Auckland, Singapore, Sydney, etc. They all have a dedicated body. It may be established in different ways with different administrative arrangements. So you're asking the public this question. You're asking whether we need a dedicated agency with dedicated and independent executive arm. Then the Civic Party's position is very clear. we're sure that we must have a dedicated agency which is independent with administrative functions. Now, if the consultation starting from scratch, because according to the administration, the general public needs to familiarize themselves with the whole issue, well, I won't argue with you, but we have, say, Mr. Nick Brook and Mr. Vincent Ng, other very committed and dedicated individuals like members of the Harbourfront Commission. They all want to expedite matters so that the sites now controlled by the government along the waterfront can be preserved as soon as possible. The government, however, is taking a perfunctory attitude, and we are very disappointed. I'm sure the two gentlemen are very disappointed as well. So is the government really committed to give this undertaking to us here, that the government will, as soon as possible, complete this consultation exercise and help the public form a stance as soon as possible? If you ask the public to express their views on very vague topics, it's very difficult. We're not starting from scratch. From the HEC to the HC, all along, we have this operational experience. As for the 4 cities mentioned, it seems that the conclusion is very clear. So, Secretary, can you tell us very clearly and explain to members of the public and this council here that the CY Leung's administration is committed and resolved to take this ahead? Secretary. Chairman, the P exercise will be carried out in 2 phases. That's upon the recommendation of the HC. No preconceived position will be formed during the first phase exercise. The public's views would be sought on whether a dedicated body should be set up. This is also on the recommendation of the Harbourfront Commission. If a mainstream or if a majority view is formed, then we will further explore into the details of its establishment. Now, the Financial Secretary already said that financially the support will be provided, and we would start legislative work as soon as possible. Now, a very simple question on whether it's an independent body or an independent executive arm. Is there any inclination, Chairman, on the recommendation of the Harbourfront Commission? We're proposing that the Harbourfront Authority be set up. Mr. Gary Chan. Chairman, I'd like to thank the Harbourfront Commission for their contribution and their effort in the planning and design of the Harbourfront. And in 2011, this council, or this panel, this council, had a motion debate on Harbourfront planning.
But when reading through the paper, I was a little bit disappointed. When you look at paragraph 13 of the paper, it says that it would first look at land plots in Central and then taking it forward from there. So I think the scope of work of the Harbourfront Authority may be too narrow if it just focuses on Central in the initial stage. The Harbourfront belongs to everyone in Hong Kong. And should we position ourselves so narrowly, taking such a short-sighted perspective, can we undertake to work on larger areas apart from Central? Secondly, concerning waterfront areas, they are now managed by various government departments like the LCSD, CEDD, and so on. So in planning for new waterfront areas, I'm afraid that there may be overlapping of duties. Let me cite an example. Along waterfront areas in Kowloon, there is the West Kowloon Cultural District Authority overseeing some plots, and also the Kowloon East Development Office is also overseeing some of the plots. And along the Tsim Sha Tsui waterfront, it is managed by a private company. Now, if we are going to establish a Harbourfront authority in the future, the structure will be very complicated in terms of managing the waterfront areas. So my question for the Secretary, in terms of planning, design, and management, can you undertake that there will not be overlapping and that the power will be vested solely with the Harbourfront Authority? Secretary, please, if we are to establish a Harbourfront Authority, apart from the question raised by Mr. Chen Hak-kan, there is also the division of power between the authority and other government departments, like with that of the Town Planning Board. So in the second phase PE exercise, we will deal with those issues. As to why central and western waterfront areas are used as a starting point for the work of the authority, I've explained before. Perhaps I'll defer to Mr. Ng to explain that again. Thank you, Chairman. Other areas like West Kowloon and Tsim Sha Tsui, as mentioned by Mr. Chen Hak-kan. For these areas, we need a single entity to overlook these areas in order to achieve our vision and to meet with public aspiration. It's precisely because we are lacking a Harbourfront authority. Do we have all these other bodies in place? And the idea of the authority has been dragging on for so long is precisely because we are afraid of overlapping of a structure. And ultimately, we find that we should take a leap forward in our structure before we can advance the development of the Harbourfront. Why are we taking such a humble stance in the consultation paper, and we are not proposing to take over the management of the entire 73 kilometers harbourfront? When we look at it, it's a very long distance, and there are many issues which need to be tackled, like private land plots, existing facilities, loading and unloading areas, and government buildings, and so on. What are we going to do with these? So the difficulties involved are really immense. So we don't want to start with a big body and then ask everyone to give over the land to us in the very beginning, and then we might not be able to do our job ultimately. So we want to start at a humble level. So that's why we propose starting from the waterfront areas in Central and Wan Chai, because no government buildings are built on it. It's a fresh piece of land, so to speak. And geographically, it is very strategic also in Hong Kong, and also can implement the vision of building an accessible, sustainable, vibrant harbour. So, it's not to say that there are no difficulties in developing waterfront areas in Central and Wan Chai, but the difficulties to be encountered are relatively less, as we see it. So we want to start with something that is achievable in the short term first. before we extend our work to other waterfront areas. Dr. Lo Wei Kwok. In this current PE exercise, it is adopting an open approach without preconceived ideas. So precisely because of this, I'm worried that the consultation exercise will be a difficult one because you have no preconceived ideas. So my question is it a Harbourfront authority for building parks, for building promenades, or for building everything? Well, if it is the third option, that is an authority in charge of everything along the waterfront, then that would be a difficult task and might not be feasible at all. One of the thinking is that if we have this authority, we can cut down the red tape. And we do see that there is a lot of red tape now. The conflicts between conservation and development, and conflicts between different developmental needs. Some people may think that the harbourfront should be developed for commercial purposes, others leisure purposes. It's not difficult to strike a balance among these different conflicts. Okay, if you say that the Harbourfront Authority is just taking care of promenades and parks and not other areas, then it still runs into difficulties about arrangements, say in the transport aspects and in accessibility aspects and so on. And actually, today, a lot of the leisure areas are still not used by the public because they are not very accessible. So there are a lot of conflicts of such kinds. I agree that the discussion should be an open one, but I propose that there should be more stances spelled out by the government. Should we focus on building parks and promenades for public enjoyment? Or, say, would the Harbourfront Authority be built into something like the Hospital Authority or the Housing Authority? And these authorities do have clear terms of reference. So the public, of course, can comment on these aspects. But in the meeting today, can the administration let us know your basic stance? Yes, Chairman.
As Chairman of the Commission, I think it's important to differentiate, if you like, in terms of preconceived ideas, in terms of the exact nature of the delivery agency, as compared to the need for a delivery agency. The Commission is unanimous in the need for a delivery agency, for an authority to take charge of the waterfront. There is no question of any doubt in that sense. So you were saying it's rather vague, it looks rather uncertain, but the message to the community that we wish to convey is that there is this need, overriding need for a delivery agency, and we're very clear in that. Quite what form that delivery agency takes is, if you like, the discussion that needs to be had over the next 3 to 6 months. In terms of the role and responsibilities of this delivery agency, we see, the Commission sees it as having a combined social and commercial agenda. So yes, the parks and the quiet facilities that you mentioned, yes, would be part of the agenda, but there clearly has to be a wider agenda, which is to bring vibrancy and activity to the waterfront. Our food and beverage offer, if I may put it that way, on the waterfront is very, very poor. Similarly, activity and attractions on the waterfront, the current facilities are very, very poor. So I see the agenda being a combined one, Social has to be very high on the agenda, but we need to bring life and vibrancy, and that involves bringing commercial activities as well to the waterfront. So I think we are clear in terms of both direction and the mix and of responsibilities that the authority would take.
Thank you, Chairman. So I think there should be a clear definition of what is a harbourfront. What is a harbourfront? It seems so vague. It can be just a promenade, or their adjoining land, and including undeveloped or developed areas adjoining the harbourfront. So we have to be very clear on our definition. Any response? Secretary, you want a response? Adjoining land adjoining the harbourfront. Yes, that's included. Architects and engineers are very concerned about where to draw the line, but it's always so difficult to draw the line accurately. In planning exercises, we talk about interfaces. In the past 9 years, in the HEC and the HFC, we have discussed this issue for such a long time, what should be covered and what should not be covered, and so on. So in our past experience, within the Victoria Harbour, there is a statutory provision on what constitutes the Victoria Harbour. The harbourfront area is considered that piece of land between the actual coastal line and the next street, the street parallel to the harbourfront, or the first street parallel to the harbourfront. The HEC was very active in public discussion on the subject, and past practice serves only as a reference, but as to how we should draw a line on what constitutes harbourfront, we don't have any fixed ideas yet. This is something open for discussion by everyone. Well, can you please allow me to say one last thing? Now, if it is just a consultative body, then we don't need a very clear or definite demarcation of the areas. But then if you're talking about an authority responsible for planning and development, the areas have to be drawn very accurately. Mrs. Regina Yip, Chairman, I think the consultation is really too vague to me. It's too hollow, the consultation document. You have to come up with your own stance. And of course, everyone welcomes the establishment of a statutory harbourfront authority. There are such authorities in other places, and the LegCo give you your full support. But you have to give us the details on the authority, say the manpower and the structure and so on. You've been studying the subject for a decade already. So please give us the details. Your progress has been too slow, and you're giving us too vague a document.
And actually, you're talking about the Quango, a quasi-government body. So in terms of actual execution, who will be in charge of it? We have the Competition Commission and other an independent insurance authority, etc. We're seeing more and more of Quangos, and we need experienced individuals to take charge of these bodies. So unless Mr. Ng, you're willing to help, or maybe government or former government officials like Mr. Thomas Chan when you leave the government. So you need to come up with some specific proposals to consult. If matters are too vague, it's pointless. Any response from the government? I will invite Mr. Ng to respond because, like I said just now, the consultation will be carried out in 2 phases on the recommendation of the Harbourfront Commission. Yes, a brief response. Chairman, I think those working on the Harbourfront Commission for over a decade. Professionals like Mr. Nick Brooke and myself included are the most anxious group of people waiting to see it happen. Now, it is exactly the concept of engaging the public that we're taking matters forward in this manner. A group of professionals might have an idea of how it should proceed, but we need to engage the public and communicate with them, and then we need to seek views. If we come up with too concrete a proposal for consultation, we may be criticized for having a fake consultation, and yet we're being criticized for a too weak consultation. So I think the public is mostly interested in TV, dramas, etc. So you should really ask them specific questions to help the public understand the issue. Chairman, I take this, accept this view. I have nothing to add. Ms. Alice Mack, and then another member, and then I'll draw a line here. We're running behind schedule. We still have one item to go. Ms. Alice Mack, we support the establishment of the Harbourfront Authority, and we hope it could be set up as soon as possible, so that we have a dedicated body with dedicated individuals to take charge of planning and design of the Harbourfront, so that we can bring vibrancy to the Harbourfront. I do have some sympathy for the Commission and the administration. They are criticized for either doing too much or not doing anything. Now, about the views expressed today, we are in support of the proposal. So, Secretary, please be bold. Please act more aggressively and strive for the establishment of the authority as soon as possible. I also feel that there should be a dedicated body with executive functions, so that it can fully play its role in the future. And we don't want a promenade park every time. And Mr. Ng said that they strived for 9 years before we are allowed to walk on the grass. And we really want a dedicated authority to fight corners. The various government departments are in charge of their respective sites, and they just work within the frame. So it's a good thing to have a dedicated body to help us think out of the box. So, Secretary, please be bold and do more to strive for the establishment. Thank you. Comments heard. Mr. Albert Chan, and then so much for this item. Now, the Commission was set up not only 9 years ago, I believe in the 90s. We fought several battles with the government on the Harbourfront matters. Now, after the setting up of the Harbourfront Commission, we had the understanding among members of the public that the Harbourfront should be returned to us. But returned to who? Return to the privileged or return to the Pillar A? We do have some views. Back then, I strongly opposed the setting of the construction of the government or the CGO annex at the Tama site. I said that it should become a park instead. In the end, a decision was made. The Harbourfront was returned to the privileged few instead of the general public. What about the military site along the waterfront in Central? It's a question whether the site is returned to the people or returned to the People's Army. So what's the purpose of setting up the Harbourfront Authority? Is it accepted by all? There is a chance that the Harbourfront Authority would only serve Mr. Lee Ka-shing or Sun Hung Kei or Henderson. We don't know who will be the final decision maker and who will make the final decision to benefit what parties. So please tell me something about the composition of the authority. And I respect members of the existing Harbourfront Commission, but there are some members in the Commission actually working for developers. So it's very important how public views can be incorporated and how we can monitor its work. Chairman, several years ago, we had a duty visit to New York, and the Harbourfront sites are very valuable properties. And even along the waterfront, they built low-cost flats for the lower class. And then for the commercial properties, the income would be used to subsidize the facilities for the community. They had the tennis courts, they had the football pitches, etc. That's returning the Harbourfront to the people. So you really need to make your position clear. Otherwise, the authority so set up will only work for the rich and powerful, where the privileged and the rich and the powerful can enjoy red wine there. The general public can't even walk along the waterfront. We've talked about this issue over and over again. Rich people can enjoy cheap wine and poor people need to smoke expensive cigarettes. So the rich and powerful, they can use the yacht site and enjoy the red wine. For general public, they can't even have a seat there and enjoy the harbor view. We haven't seen this happening yet. So if you want to set up the Harbourfront Authority, you really need to implement the principle of returning the Harbourfront to the people. So the first point is about powers, the second point is about land, the third point is about resources, the fourth point, monitoring. All these four issues must be made clear. During your Phase 2 exercise, you must set out these 4 points very clearly. The Urban Renewal Authority, they started from the Land Developing Company, and they worked for the rich by exploiting the poor. They destroy history. The Development Bureau or the Harbourfront Authority would not want to see this happening again. So perhaps Mr. Brok or Mr. Ng can explain to me how you can implement the principle of returning the harbour to the people. Returning the harbour to the people is all along a vision of the HEC and the Harbourfront Commission. We want to create a harbour for the people of Hong Kong, for the enjoyment of the whole of Hong Kong. It is all along our position that we should avoid the harbourfront being enjoyed by a few. This is the vision and the commitment, and I don't think anyone would be willing to pay for dozens of dollars for a cup of coffee in order to enjoy the harbour. The purpose of establishing the Harbourfront Authority is exactly this, to ensure that everyone can enjoy the harbour, the harbourfront. And accountability is also a major topic for our next phase of the exercise. Mr. Chan asked a question today. This is also of wide public concern. Now, in the future, as to how this authority is accountable to the public and to this council, as to how the chairman or the CEO should, or whether the chairman or the CEO should attend electoral meetings for public scrutiny, this is also what we need to give this undertaking. I also share Mr. Chan's concern. Very briefly, Chairman, if my memory serves me right, decades ago I went to Norway and I don't recall whether it was the national policy. In Norway, within a radius of a certain distance, all sites along the waterfront be owned by the government. It must not be privately owned. So maybe can we have something like this so that no private developer can own any land along the waterfront, so that you can implement the principle of returning the harbor to the people. Allow me to take this question. The new central harbourfront and Wan Chai, along the waterfront, at least 20 meters will be used for public open space. Now we've had a lengthy discussion, and I understand that we're going to have a public hearing on the 16th. Is it? 16th of November, and members can follow up on these matters. So much for this item now. Yes, think about it. Next item. Any objection if I extend the meeting to 6 o'clock? I will extend the meeting to 6 so that we have ample time to discuss the Hong Shui Kiu NDA project. So next item, Hong Shui Kiu New Development Area Planning and Engineering Study, Preliminary Outline Development Plan, and Stage 2 Community Engagement. Would the staff please invite the administration in, please?
So
may I welcome representatives from the administration for attending this meeting. Their names are contained in the attendance list. I won't go through them one by one. So may I invite the administration to briefly take us through this paper. Secretary, over to you. Thank you, Chairman. Today, my colleagues have joined me to explain or to take members through the Hong Shui Kiu NDA Planning and Engineering Study Preliminary Outline Development Plan, and in the 2003 study, Hong Shui Kiu was selected as the NDA development project site because of growth in population changes. The plan was set aside, and later on it was the matter was looked at again, and it was agreed that a few new development areas and new territories would be developed, including Hong Shui Kiu, to cater for the demand, long-term housing demand, and to provide job opportunities. In August 2011, the administration commissioned a consultant to conduct the relevant study. And then in November 2011 and December 2012, two phases of public engagement exercise were carried out, and at the same time, the PODP was formulated to serve as direction. And we started the Stage 2 community engagement exercise in July this year, and we continue to heed views from the public. And I'd like to talk about 4 major points of this project. First is in relation to the strategic roles of the Hong Shui Kiu NDA. It's located at the Northwest New Territories, and there are transport connections with the Hong Kong International Airport and other railway systems, and Shenzhen as well. We plan to develop Hong Shui Kiu into a multi-functional areas, including commercial and residential elements, and it can also rely on its strategic location to provide commercial facilities like hotel and logistics, etc. On completion of the whole project, it can provide within the area Tuen Mun, Tin Shui Wai, Yuen Long, etc., 100,000 job opportunities. The second point is about the provision or the supply of housing land. The Hong Shui Kiu NDA is major source of land supply in the long term, and we are going to formulate various housing development projects with different plot ratios and densities to meet the needs of housing in the long term.
A total of 60,000 units will be built. The housing mix is 51% to 49% in terms of public to private housing. Now, if we include the Shui new town as well, the overall mix of public to private housing is 69 to 31. We believe that the Harbourfront NDA should be developed together with surrounding new towns, including Shui and Yunlong, so that the public facilities can be the use of public facilities can be maximized. And together with other new towns, the new job opportunities can be shared by all. The third focus is on creating people-oriented communities. Our vision is to build a sustainable, people-oriented and balanced community. Apart from providing residential flats and employment opportunities, it will also be built together on the principle that it would be compatible with existing areas, and there will be a balanced development. To build the fourth point is to build a green living environment. We notice that people have high aspirations for quality living environment, so we propose that major developments be built along the transport hubs and to encourage people to use mass transport modes. And in the NDA, the green transport modes will be built, and then safe and green cycle tracks and pedestrian walkways will be built. And we will use green technologies to enhance the environment along the Shui River Channel, and we will strive to build a vibrant community and a pleasant living environment. Now I will defer to my colleague of the Development Bureau to walk us through the PowerPoint presentation. Ms. Lee, please. Background, I won't go into it because the Secretary has already mentioned it. It is located in the northwestern part of the NT and is next to Shui New Town, and is very near to the Yunlong and Chunmu New Towns. It is the West Rail passes through the district and is connected to various highways. On the northern part of the area, there are port backup and open storage facilities. And they are very close to existing villages as well. So in terms of the environment, the development may pose negative impact. In the central and southern regions, there are also community establishments, including low to medium density residential developments, and some 20 villages as well. The Secretary also mentioned that the study is divided into 3 phases. We are now in the second phase, or second stage. We have come up with a preliminary outline development plan for consulting the public. In the first phase, or stage 1, we asked the public to give opinions on the overall vision and also several major issues. First, strategic role of the NDA, and second, people-oriented communities, third, sustainable development, and fourth, implementation mechanism, compensation, and rehousing. We hope the public can give us views on these several aspects. In the first, after we have received comments from the stage 1, we have compiled and consolidated it and come up with an overall vision. And Overall, we hope that to build it into a sustainable, people-oriented and balanced living and working community for Hong Kong. What's most important is that it will not be just a localized residential and employment hub, but also a regional center to foster the future economic development and growth of Hong Kong. The Secretary also mentioned just now that this area has good geographic advantages, and through existing and planned transport networks, it can easily connected to downtown areas, the airport, the port, and Shanghai in Shenzhen. So it has all these advantages, and which can help it integrate with the mainland areas and the mainland economies. We have several hundred hectares of land here, so it will be a major source of land supply in the future. And through overall planning, we can more effectively make use of the infrastructure and GIC facilities through integrating with neighboring new towns, and we will be able to provide more jobs to surrounding areas. And we will also be able to improve the existing housing mix and improve the existing unbalanced housing mix. Preliminary outline development plan. According to the present proposal, the total population will reach 218,000. Around 175,000 people will be new population in the area. We hope to provide 100,000 jobs in the area. Half of them will be in the special industries, including logistics industry. And the other 50% will come from other commercial, retail, hotels, education, social welfare sectors, and so on. We hope to provide jobs which span various sectors across the community. The Secretary also mentioned that there will be 100 new housing units. 51% will be public housing, 49% private housing. Together with Shui, the mix will be around 7-3. The residential developments with the highest density will be concentrated around the 2 railway stations with the highest plot ratio. But we will have different plot ratio proposals, especially around Lau Fau Shan. The plot ratio will be lowered to around 3.5. Timetable. The commencement of works is scheduled for 2019, first population intake 2024, and the project is slated for completion in 2034. Now, as for the planning and design, there is this Shui West Rail Station, and on the southern part, we want to add in an additional station of Hong Shui Q. That will be the town center of the Hong Shui Q NDA, and then also the Shui station will be the sub-center. So all the commercial facilities or activities will be clustered around these 2 points. Now, through the Shui River and its tributaries, we want to create a north-southern green belt, and through this green belt, we hope to integrate with Shui district. On the northwestern side, we hope to develop a logistics and technology quarter. We hope the situation will be the area will be situated as closely as possible to Kongshan Western Highway, so that heavy goods vehicles can actually drive directly to the highway without passing through the residential areas. In the center of the green belt, we propose to build a park, a central park. There will also be other cycle tracks and pedestrian walkways which will be distributed throughout the area. Can you be brief? Can you make it brief? There will be 6 areas in the NDA. Sorry, mic not coming through. Okay. 7 members have raised their hands. Cole, can you make it brief? Really brief. So there are 6 areas. I want to highlight area 6. That is on the southern area of Castle Peak Road. In the first PE exercise, we had many views on that area. And you can tell from the photos that there are now low to medium density residential buildings and there are existing villages. So at this stage, we propose in the PODP that existing structures be retained. And they will be developed according to the plan as set out in the PODP. We will also propose works to improve the overall environment. For example, by the side of the river there will be improvement works to be carried out. About the transport networks, well, perhaps I'll just skip that. I want to say that in the PE2 exercise, we started many public consultation activities since July. Then there was a forum held on the 9th of July, attended by some 400 people. We also received some 1,000 written submissions. And this PowerPoint shows the major views expressed by the community. There are several, the comments fall into 7 major categories. Well, perhaps Chairman will fix another time to discuss the topic. Yes, we're going to hold a public hearing. Please make it brief. Many people support the strategic function of the NDA. How it can capitalize on its advantage to enhance economic interaction between Hong Kong and Shenzhen. They also support that the area should provide more jobs, but then they are also concerned about the impact on existing residents who may lose their jobs. Now, as for the provision of adequate infrastructure support, people asked us to provide adequate infrastructure, and some also raised concerns about diversion of streets or roads. The 4th point is the existing villages also requested that the area of the existing village type development be expanded, and in Tan Kwai Chun and Waping San Chun, there was support of retaining these villages. Some also made proposals about development density, plot ratio, and housing mix and so on. Some people also proposed that there should be no removal and no demolition. Concerning environmental impact, we should, some people support that ecologically sensitive areas be maintained, and then development density be kept, be restricted to prevent adverse impact on air ventilation. People also support the proposals on compensation and rehousing.
So much for my presentation, Chairman. We have 7 members. Chan Hak Ken, Albert Chan, Kwok Kak Ki, Lam Chi Chung, Chen Kem Lam, Alice Mack, UC Wing. One by one, please. Mr. Gary Chan. Thank you, Chairman. 3 minutes. Hong Shui Q, NDA Development Project is a very important project for meeting the future housing and development needs of Hong Kong. It is also a very important transportation hub, but I note that there are 2 sites near the Hong Shui Kiu station in the future. They will be used for a hotel, facilities, office space, retail, etc. This plan, as I see it, may not be able to meet the needs of the area as a transport hub or node. So I wonder if the administration will consider appropriately expanding the relevant parts, commercial and retail areas to cope with the needs in the future as far as transportation and job opportunities are concerned. Chairman, Shui is often criticized and stigmatized as the tragic city, and Shui is just next to Hong Shui Kiu. If we can provide job opportunities in Hong Shui Kiu by expanding the commercial and business hub, then we can provide job opportunities for people there. And in Southwest, say this area constitutes public housing, a large public housing area, as large as Taikoo Shing. 20 hectares, some 20 hectares. I'm not against public housing, but if they all aggregate in one area, there will be a great demand for education and healthcare facilities. So my question for the for Secretary is this: can we have a mix of public-private housing in the same area whilst maintaining the same ratio, so that the community can be developed in a more harmonious way, and the demands I mentioned can be alleviated, and also job opportunities can be provided to local residents? So 2 points for Secretary to respond. Secretary, I'll defer to my planning department colleagues to take this question. Job opportunities. Near Hong Shui Kiu Station, 2 large sites have been designated for commercial and business development, like hotel facilities and office space and retail facilities. It will be a large regional business hub, and at the next stage we can consider whether this area can be expanded to provide more job opportunities. The other point is that this is just a preliminary outline development plan. The division of the land boundaries are not are not fixed yet. And at the next stage, in relation to private housing and subsidized housing, a more appropriate balance will be struck when we come to the detailed design stage. Next, Mr. Albert Chan. Chairman, the People Power on the 15th submitted a paper to the government stating our position. I want to reiterate 3 points. In terms of planning, I hope the government will not treat residents living in the new territories or rural areas as second class. For any kind of development areas, there will be 1 station for every 50,000 population, but now it's 80,000, and you have not made use of the whole transportation system to improve the rail system in NT Northwest. So I hope you can think outside the box. You can treat NDA development as urban development, because every time when we talk about development in the new territories, they are treated as second class. It seems that urban area development is always more important. The NT residents should not be discriminated against, and Chairman, you should take the lead by and criticize the government for this kind of thinking. Second point, Hong Shui can become a very important hub for the links between the east and west and the north and south. The railway system and the whole NT Northwest railway system can be improved. And another point, you should not repeat the Kutong development. The Secretary already benefits tens of millions of dollars from this development. In the past decade, because of the announcement of the development project, many developers have already hoarded lots of land. Now, my next question for the administration is this: about the land and your plan. Is it the case that lots of land have been owned by the private developers, just like the case in Kutong? So which consortia can influence the government? And some retired government officials will become consultants for private developers. I won't name names, but you see many planning officials in the government departments turning into consultants for private developers when they retire. So has there been any transfer of benefits? I can ask the questions one by one. Who owns what, which residential site? Otherwise, this plan will become a tool for the consortia to cash out. I will defer to my planning department colleagues to take this question. We don't have any double standard for NT development or urban development, but in fact, the fact is, according to your paper, there will be one railway station for every 60 to 80,000 population. In Hong Shui, it's over 100,000 population. In Tin Shui Wai, 300,000. Just one station. This is fact. So you should equate the standard for Hong Shui with the urban development. There should be one station for every 60 to 80,000 population. In Hong Shui and NDA, there are two West Rail stations, Hong Shui and Tin Shui Wai, and the focus is not on the number of stations, but on how large a population can reach the railway station in walking distance, and over half of them can. And we have the original LRT or the existing LRT stations. Now, please don't twist the fact. I believe LRT is also a kind of mass transport. LRT is not a kind of, it's not a part of the overall mass transportation system. So we provide convenient links in this area as far as transportation is concerned. Now, on the strategic link between the east and west and north and south, now you see that for emerging industries and logistics, they will be situated on the northwest side of the NDA, so that for Kwangshan West Highway and other mass transportation railway, the system connections can be made with the Hong Kong International Airport and Shenzhen. As for various land uses, now we'll look at their geographical location. For sites near the railway station, they will be of high density commercial developments, providing more job opportunities. For more remote areas, the density might decrease, and the public open space may be closer to residents living in the new development area. So land ownership is not one of our considerations. Chairman, I want to put this on record. I don't accept the administration's answer. They totally disregard the interests of and rights of the people living in the new territories. Mr. Leung Chi-Chang. Why, I think since time is running out, it's difficult to say something more specific. One point is about villages. I can see in your development plan that the NDA will surround the villages so that village development will in the future will become limited. I can say that you're trying to engulf the villages by high-rise buildings. Yunlong is a very unique community. We need a mix of new and old developments. Old villages should not be engulfed by new developments. There is no room for existing villages to develop. So you really need some new thinking. There are some 20 existing villages and land should be reserved for them to develop. The second point is in relation to the overall plan. I think there is a major flaw here. According to you, Hongshui-Kiu will become a major strategic development location in the northwest of the new territories. It can serve as a hub for various important areas. However, from Tinshui to Hongshui-Kiu Station, what is the distance? It's very close. So what's the effect of having one more station? The Shanghai Express, according to you, will be linked to this station, but I really have doubts whether it can really play its full effect. And Hongshui-Kiu and Tinshui should really be combined to become one large residential area. But actually, there is no connection at all. And you're going to place a town park between the two places with high-rise buildings in between, so the effect will be limited. I'd rather make this suggestion. Would you consider moving the town park to one side and keeping the residential areas in the same place to achieve a better effect, so that you won't create a basin where the park is? Thank you, Chairman. I'll defer to Ms. Lee. On villages, under the small house policy, if the villages would like to develop the village within the village environment, we will take this into consideration. So we have taken into account the need for small house development in the long term. For non-indigenous villages, should they want to keep their villages, we have indeed already preserved villages for them. As for those closer to town center which cannot be preserved, these villages would be affected. As for the surrounding development in the future, details will be set out. For example, the villages will not be surrounded by high-rise buildings in the future. And when we come to the next stage, we will deal with these issues. On the arrangement of stations, we have a Tinshui station at present, and the Hongshui-Kiu station has been earmarked for a long time already. As said just now, if we only have one station, it's difficult to cater for the whole population. So we have two.
With two stations, around 45% of the population will live within the areas within 500 meters of the stations. The town park is meant to serve most of the residents, and we have to consider also the river alignment. And you can tell from the picture that around the town park there will be low-density residential development, so it will not be surrounded by high rises. Dr. Kenneth Chen. Or rather, Mr. Chen Kam Lam. We have held many public hearings on the the new territories development. The timetable is for the projects to be completed in 2019, 2024, and 2034. So we have to resolve the problems step by step, but I think there is something that can be done immediately. Now that we are embarking on planning, transport, railway networks, well, these are the areas that we can proceed first. Now we've got the space for the Hongshui station. So can we ask the MTRCL to proceed with that first? If we've got the transport network, that is going to expedite the development as a whole. Now that we have come up with the different development density for various districts, then existing residents can think about redeveloping their buildings based on the proposed plot ratios or development density. So I think we should have draw up some measures to encourage people to start doing work now. So we can get the ball rolling with the appropriate measures in place. Now we have a strong demand for housing land, but then when we get down to work on it, then the progress is always very slow. Can we do it faster? We've got land here already. Yes, Ms. Lee, please. The 218,000 people. That is not going to be to be the figure for, say, the next decade after the 10 years. Now, for the Phase 3 development in Hongshui public housing development project, we have consulted the district council, and we are taking that up already. So we can proceed with Phase 1 development as a priority. And in the southern part of Yuen Long Highway in Yuen Chin and Chung Ok Chin, we will not wait until the plan has been approved. And actually, a lot of the private residential developers are already doing some work. Now, why are we setting this date of 2019? Is because after the first phase, second stage consultation, we would be coming up with the RODP, and then we'll initiate processes with the environmental impact assessment, town planning procedures, and so on. So we hope to get things going as fast as possible. Well, to put simply, I just want the administration to expedite the whole process. It's 5 to 6 years. From now to 2019, I want to declare an interest. I have a unit in Hongshui. Ms. Alice Mack, Chairman. The Federation of Trade Unions is in support of the development of Hongshui. In Tin Shui Wai, next to Hongshui, we are lacking some 10,000 job opportunities here, and 90% of the people there have to travel across regions to work. So we have high, or we've been high hopes on the 100,000 jobs expected for Hongshui, which we hope to address the problem of employment in Tin Shui Wai as well. We have come up with this proposal. We handed that to the government last week. We are particularly concerned about job opportunities. We are a labor organization, and we hope that residents there can get jobs there as well. And through this development of this Hong Shui Q NDA, people in Tuen Mun and Tin Shui Wai can also get jobs as well. Under the present planning, I think it's a very aggressive plan. The government has not only considered housing issues, but also commercial issues, commercial activities and job opportunities. But how can that be realized? How can you ensure that your plan can be implemented smoothly? You're talking about 50,000 jobs coming from the logistics sector, but that sector comes under the purview of the THB. But if then the THB doesn't have the relevant policies in parallel with your plan, so how can you provide 50,000 jobs from the logistics sector? We're talking about 190 hectares of land now for the logistics industry. We are very concerned about the job opportunities for workers in the logistics sector. So please, the Development Bureau work with other government bureaus, or else your plan won't be able to be realized. We also noted that there are community facilities like hospitals and sports facilities and so on. Jobs may also be created on those fronts, but Secretary, please also work together with other bureaus on those facilities as well. Now, say for the Lantau Island Hospital, it can create several hundred jobs there. But then the jobs were late for some 20 years because the hospital took 20 years to build. So all these plans need the support from other government bureaus. So we do have many other specific proposals as well, and we handed those to the government. So all in all, we just hope that the administration or the secretary can work together with other government bureaus to implement the plan. So I will respond briefly. Mrs. Alice Mack has made some important points, and that is how to ensure that the jobs can be provided as planned. At the senior level of the government, we are also very concerned about this. So in the planning process, just not that the Development Bureau, which is involved, the CEDB, THB, were also involved. They have representatives working together with us on the planning. Say for many of the port backup open storage facilities in the area, there is indeed a need for them. But then the way the land is being used is not good enough. So we have to work with other government departments as far as policies are concerned. Mr. Yu Si-wing. Thank you, Chairman. The planning for tourism industry in Hong Kong is inadequate, and there are a host of problems. Now, Hong Shui Kiu is near Shenzhen Bay, and I believe that many tourists, mainland tourists, will be attracted to the area once it has been built up. So can the government consider this from a tourism point of view? Can you link up all the cycling paths, the heritage trail, new hotels, new commercial complexes? Can you build all these into a very attractive tourist area so that we can attract more tourists? Ms. Lee, please. Yes, the answer is in the affirmative. The wetland park in Tin Shui Wai is world famous, and in Hong Shui Kiu, we may build big commercial complexes and hotels. we would study in depth how to link up all these facilities together. Chairman, as we all know, Shui, Taipo, there are problems in these two districts because of too many mainland tourists. So would the administration learn the lesson from the districts in Shui and Taipo to prevent similar problems from reoccurring in Hongshui-Q? Yes, thank you, Mr. Yu, for your comment. We will take note of your suggestion. 2 more members have indicated their wish to speak. We have only 5 minutes left. Do you want to agree that we extend the meeting for 10 minutes? Yes. All right, we'll do that. I have 3 suggestions. Secretary, I'll be brief on the first 2, and I would spend more time on the third suggestion. About the town park, I have discussed with some friends and experts. The plot, the whole land plot, is too big, and then if you put the town park in the middle, it would be too distant from the rest of the regions. Can you build the town park in the size of a donut so that more people will be able to access the town park? Well, this is an idea relayed to me by my friends, and they've asked me to convey the same to you. Now, a big problem in developing new towns is non-indigenous villages. They don't want to be removed, and they fight strongly back against you. So if you have green belts surrounding these non-indigenous villages, and you're trying to integrate them into the green belts, and they don't have to be removed, and then they can still stay on their existing plots, and then you have enhanced greening effect. So I think that's a good idea, and you try to integrate the green belts with the non-indigenous villages. Secretary, I tried to approach you for many times. In the past decade, Hong Kong's retail sector has increased by 150% in the area, and some people have even suggested that the individually traveler scheme be stopped. And then rental prices are rising, and local brands are disappearing, and then the retail sector is dominated by overseas brands. So I think the government has not been doing a responsible job in protecting the interest of local brands. I have raised this many times. In Tung Chung and Northeast NT, we need big hotels and large-scale commercial complexes and so on. Now we've got this Hongshui-Q station here, and then there will be a road, a spur line from the airport to this point. So I think the potential is great for building a large hotel, shopping mall here at this point. So a big shopping mall should be in the area of, say, over 100 square feet. And then many jobs can be created, and a lot of individual travelers from the mainland will visit there. And the people you're going to hire will be the new immigrants, and they need not further training because they know Putonghua already. They speak the language. So all the support facilities are there. So please build a mega shopping mall around this station. So this is my.
I'm happy to hear any response from you. Chairman, I'll be brief. In relation to retail floor area and large-scale shopping mall, we will go back and consider this suggestion. As for town park and non-indigenous villages, in particular for non-indigenous villages, I think it's very difficult to implement your suggestion. Perhaps I'll defer to Ms. Lee. For indigenous villages, if it's situated within the area of the future town center and the railway development, it's inevitable that something must be done. As for the fringe areas, like the southern part of Yuen Long Highway, we have already adopted this method. This will be zoned as green belt, and some villages, settlements will be preserved there. For some others, inevitably, they must be moved. But you should have as little removal as possible. Town park. On its design, yes, we can further consider it as well, how it can be surrounded, or how it can become the icon of the area. We will further consider it because we want to encourage use by the local community by making it an icon. Basically, we are thinking along the lines of connecting it with the river nearby. Mr. Ho Chunyan, I'm not a member of this panel, but I am also concerned about the development in Tin Shui Wai. Other members have already expressed their support on the development project. Some members make some very good comments on problems like transportation, etc. Now, I have to raise my concern on behalf of my sector, and that's the agricultural sector. 28 hectares of agricultural land will be affected, and 11 hectares of land will be provided by the government in the future for rehabilitative farming. I'd like to know whether the land would come from the government or not. If it's not government owned, then 1 year later they may be forced to move. And for affected farmers, how will the compensation be made? The other point is that there is a chicken farm nearby, and I inquired with your bureau, and your answer was that it would not be included in the new development area. And yet the farm is very close to the NDA. So will there be any conflict in the future? If, say, there is a residential development there, the residents may not even like to see a chicken farm there. Have you considered it? The third point is that I also live in Yuen Long, and we see the logistics industry, the transport station sector, and the recycling industry. They operate in the area. Now, for the industries I mentioned, and also for those providing storage facilities, these are necessary industries in Hong Kong. And how can you provide them with new areas for operation? For example, will there be a logistics city to accommodate them? For example, open storage yards. If you have new facilities, can they adhere to the conventional approach, or will they be phased out very soon? Please consider it. And my major point is about agricultural land. Secretary. On NENT development, as far as agriculture is concerned, we did give some consideration. We can discuss this later. As for logistics, recycling, and storage industries, now the Transport and Housing Bureau and the CDB discussed with our bureau at the planning stage how it should be proceeded with. We cannot give a broad brush answer on how these operators will be affected and what the arrangements will be. And I can only say that we have taken these into consideration. When we come to phase 3 of the exercise, I believe that we can come up with more specific arrangements. But we have taken note of your concerns. Now, what about the chicken farm and the pig farms? They have been affected in NENT, and we're waiting for the replies. Please consider it. Just 5 minutes and 2 members waiting. 2 members have yet to speak. So you can share among yourselves this 5 minutes. Dr. Wai-Kwok. I'll be very brief, Chairman. We're concerned about development at grade, but at the same time, I'm concerned about development underground. In Hung Shui Kiu, since the government is taking forward comprehensive planning and infrastructure planning, so in terms of drainage, sewerage, water mains, etc., I think the administration should take the opportunity to improve infrastructure facilities, in particular underground facilities. Mr. Leung Yu-chung, just want to tell the Development Bureau, on behalf of the non-indigenous villages in Hung Shui Kiu, from the 5 villages, they are against the proposal because they are totally being, for the indigenous villages, they won't be touched, but for these 5 villages, they are very dissatisfied with the fact that their villages will be removed. They only involve a very small area. Why must they be removed? And according to the consultancy's report, 100,000 job opportunities. It's impossible. What opportunities are they? So please explain to us in detail. Point number 3, even if you want to have comprehensive development, you don't have enough supporting structures. Meaning what? Transport, community facilities, etc. At present, they can't accommodate such a large population. The West Rail has already, according to the MTRCL, reached a capacity of 60% or 70%. But in fact, during rush hours, we have received a lot of complaints that in fact is jam-packed, and for a population of over 100,000. You should also look at Yuen Long, and the development in Yuen Long has already been saturated. You can see that for the main road in Yuen Long is also packed with people on weekends. So you should either shelve the plan, or at least you should avoid touching the indigenous villages in those 5 villages. I'll defer to Ms. Lee to take these questions. There are altogether 9 indigenous villages, and not all will be affected. As I said, the 4 affected are inevitable because they're situated near the town center or near the future railway development project. So inevitably, they will be affected. And on supporting infrastructure, in the course, we will ensure that in terms of traffic and other facilities, enough supporting structure will be given. And in the whole of the NENT development, with increasing population, we need to enhance the potential for development in the area. So we will look at it from the point of view of a strategic planning on a major highways, etc. All right, we have discussed it in great detail, and I think that's all for the discussion of this topic. Thank you, Secretary and his team, for their replies. Anything on the AOB? Not from members? All right, meeting's adjourned. Thank you.